never thought the day would come when my own parents would look me in the eye, figuratively anyway, and tell me that my children weren't welcome in their home. But there I was, standing in my kitchen, holding my phone in disbelief. Thanksgiving was only a few weeks away. I had just put dinner in the oven when my mom called. Her voice sounded unusually light, almost rehearsed. "Lauren, honey," she began. "We need to talk about Thanksgiving this year." Despite everything that had happened between us over the years, my heart still softened at the mention of holidays. I wanted my kids to know family traditions, to feel like they belonged. "Of course, Mom," I said, already picturing the smell of roasted turkey, cinnamon pies, and the warmth of their living room. "What's the plan?" There was a pause, just long enough to make my stomach twist. "Well," she said, clearing her throat, "we're doing things a little differently this year. It's going to be a smaller dinner, just adults, something more intimate." I frowned. "So, no kids?" Another pause. "Well, not exactly," she said, hesitant now. "Lauren, we love Mia and Caleb, we really do, but they're energetic. We just think it would be better if you left them with a sitter this time." I gripped the edge of the counter. "Just my kids? What about Ryan's?" She hesitated, and in that silence I already knew. "Ryan and Olivia are bringing the boys," she admitted. "You know how well behaved they are, it's just easier." I felt like I had been punched in the chest. This wasn't just a dinner invitation, it was a message, loud and clear. My kids weren't welcome. I stood there, clutching the phone, trying to steady my breath. I could hear Mia and Caleb in the next room, giggling as they built a pillow fort. They had no idea their grandparents, the ones they adored, had just cast them aside like they were too much to handle. I cleared my throat. "Mom, they're just children. Mia is 7, Caleb is 4. Yes, they're full of energy, but they're kind, sweet kids. And they love you." She sighed, already growing irritated. "We're just trying to have a peaceful evening, Lauren. It's not personal." Not personal. Those words hit like ice water. Because it was personal, it had always been personal. This wasn't the first time they made my kids feel like they didn't belong. They never came to Mia's dance recital, even though I sent reminders. But Ryan's boys? They showed up to every Little League game in matching t-shirts. At Christmas, the difference in gifts was always brushed off. "Oh, we just saw this and thought Ryan's boys would love it." As if Mia and Caleb were afterthoughts. Kids they had to include but never really embraced. And now they weren't even hiding it anymore. I swallowed hard. "I can't believe you're actually telling me my children aren't welcome, but Ryan's are." Mom huffed. "Lauren, don't be so dramatic. It's just one dinner. You and Mark are still invited, of course." I almost laughed. They wanted me there. But not the two people I loved most in the world. "No, Mom," I said quietly. "If my kids aren't welcome, then neither am I." There was a long silence on the other end. Then she exhaled sharply as if I were the one being unreasonable. "Suit yourself," she said. And then she hung up. The weight of that call stayed with me as I walked into the living room. Mia looked up at me, a big smile on her face, her curls bouncing as she laughed. I sat beside her and Caleb, pulling them close, feeling their warmth. They deserved better than this. And I was done pretending otherwise. The next morning I woke up to a text from Ryan. "Ryan, Mom said you're being difficult about Thanksgiving. Why do you always have to make everything so dramatic?" Of course. She had already run to him, the family messenger, the golden child. I stared at the screen, my jaw tight. I typed back slowly. "Me, did she also tell you she uninvited my kids but invited yours?" The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. A full minute passed. "Ryan, she just wants a calm dinner, Lauren. You know how your kids can be. A lot. A lot." As if they were burdens. as if their laughter, their energy, their joy were something to be tolerated, not loved. Something inside me snapped. Me. Enjoy your perfect Thanksgiving, Ryan. I won't be there. I turned off my phone before he could respond. They didn't want me or my children at their table? Fine. They wouldn't get the version of me they could call for help either. For years, I had been the reliable one. When Dad's car broke down, I was the one who picked him up. When Mom needed help sorting through old boxes in the attic, I was there, on my one day off. When Ryan wanted someone to organize Mom's surprise birthday party, guess who ended up making the calls, baking the cake, and cleaning up? Mate. And Ryan? He'd show up late, joke around, take credit, and leave early. And somehow they still thought the sun rose and set around him. But if my family wasn't good enough for them, then I wasn't going to be good enough to serve their needs anymore either. I was done being the helper who was never truly seen. Thanksgiving would come and go without us this year, and they were going to feel that absence a lot more than they expected. A week before Thanksgiving, my phone lit up with another call from my mother. I debated ignoring it, but something told me to answer. "Hello," I said flatly. "Lauren," she began, her voice cautious. "I know you were upset, but I really hope you'll reconsider. We'd love to have you and Mark there." "Not the kids, though, just us, right?" I replied. A sigh. "We just want a quiet evening. I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. It's just one night. You know how much Ryan's boys mean to us." And there it was. The final painful truth. She didn't even try to hide it anymore. "You've made it clear where we stand," I said, my voice tight. "You won't hear from me again." Before she could say anything else, I ended the call. And this time I didn't cry. That weekend, Dad called and left a message asking me to help him set up his new TV. I didn't call back. Mom texted asking if I could pick up a prescription on my way home. I left it unread. For the first time, I gave them silence. By the time Thanksgiving arrived, I had ignored 12 calls and 6 texts. Instead, I made pancakes with my kids in our pajamas while Mark played music in the background. Our house was full of laughter and the smell of syrup and cinnamon. But the peace didn't last long. Late that morning, my phone rang again. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Mark looked over, concerned. Should I turn it off? I shook my head. If it's an emergency, I should know. I finally answered. "Ooh, now you pick up," Mom snapped. "I suppose you're just sitting at home feeling sorry for yourself while we're all here having a lovely dinner. What do you want, Mom?" A beat. Then, sharply, "Did you cancel the credit card?" The room suddenly felt ice cold. I stepped out of the kitchen, away from the kids' laughter, lowering my voice. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Your father's card, the one we use for groceries, gas, essentials. It got declined this morning." A cold knot twisted in my stomach. "You mean my card?" She paused, then scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic, Lauren. It's just a card. You make good money, we figured." "You figured what?" My voice was shaking now. "That I wouldn't notice? That you could keep spending on my account without asking?" She let out a long, exasperated sigh. "We raised you. The least you could do is support us now." I stood there, stunned, every piece of the puzzle clicking into place. Years ago, when Dad was recovering from surgery and money was tight, I had added them to my credit card, temporarily to help them through. I'd meant to remove them once they got back on their feet, but life happened. I forgot. And they never reminded me. "You told me my kids weren't welcome," I said, my voice low and steady. "And you expected me to keep paying your bills?" "You always overreact," she snapped. "This is why we don't tell you things." "You're right," I said. "I did cancel the card, and while we're having this honest little chat, let me be clear. There won't be another cent from me, ever." "Lauren," she gasped. like I'd slapped her. Oh, don't be ridiculous. I'm done, I said. No more gifts, no more errands, no more support. You made your choice when you pushed my kids out. I'm making mine. Silence. Then her voice turned cold. You'll regret this. And she hung up. I stared at the screen for a long moment before setting the phone down. I took a deep breath and walked back into the kitchen. Mark raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? I gave him a faint smile. Yeah, I said, just taking out the trash. And I meant it. I thought that would be the end of it. I had said what needed to be said. I had drawn the line. And I honestly believed that, after being cut off, they'd finally get the message. I was wrong. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my phone rang again. This time, it was Ryan. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before answering. I already knew where this was going. What do you want, Ryan? What the hell, Lauren? He snapped. Mom just called me crying. She said you cut them off. What is wrong with you? I closed my eyes. Did she also tell you they'd been using my credit card for years without my permission? He hesitated. She said, you were helping them. Helping them? I laughed bitterly. They've racked up thousands of dollars on my account, never asked, never said a word, and now they're playing the victim? He sighed. Look, I get that you're mad, but cutting them off completely? That's extreme. You mean like how they completely excluded my kids from Thanksgiving? Mom just wanted a peaceful evening. You know your kids can be a little wild sometimes. My grip on the phone tightened. So they can use my money but not let my children sit at their table? Got it. You're twisting this, he said, voice tense. No, Ryan. I'm finally seeing it clearly. There was a pause. Then he said, maybe we can work something out. Like, you help them but with limits. A monthly transfer, maybe. That way no one suffers over a misunderstanding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want me to keep sending them money, I said slowly, after they told me, outright, that they love your kids more than mine. They mayn't mean it like that, he muttered. They may said it, I replied. He fell silent. Then, stiffly, fine, be selfish. Just don't expect them to forgive you. I shook my head, smiling coldly. I'll survive. I hung up without another word. For the first time, I wasn't the one trying to fix everything. I was done cleaning up their messes. Weeks went by without a word from them. No texts, no calls, nothing. I figured they were playing the silent treatment card, hoping I'd feel guilty and crawl back like I always had. But this time, their silence felt like peace. Then, a few days before Christmas, Mark came in from checking the mail. He was holding an envelope with a familiar return address. It's from your parents, he said, raising an eyebrow. My stomach turned. Great, let me guess. Guilt trip, manipulation, or both. He handed it to me. Only one way to find out. I opened the envelope, expecting a handwritten note or a long-winded plea. What I got instead made me freeze. It was a formal document, a demand for financial reimbursement. I blinked, reading it twice just to be sure. They were asking me to pay them back. Not for recent expenses, for raising me. The letter included a detailed itemized list. Food, clothes, school supplies, doctor visits from my entire childhood. At the bottom, a final total of $78,542. Mark read over my shoulder and let out a laugh. They're billing you for being their daughter? Apparently they were. I stood there stunned. It was outrageous. But more than that, it was sad. This wasn't about money. This was control. A last-ditch attempt to guilt me back into submission. I looked at Mark and said, I think it's time I paid them a little visit. The next morning, I drove to their house, the letter still in my hand. When my mom opened the door, her face was a mix of pride and defiance. Oh, so now you show up, she said. I held up the letter. You really thought this would work? She crossed her arms. It's only fair. I laughed, sharp and cold. You want to charge me for being your child while expecting free money for life? That's rich. Then Dad stepped in, smug as ever. We sacrificed a lot for you, Lauren, and now you're abandoning us. I met their eyes. No, you abandoned me first. Mum's lips thinned. If you don't want to pay, I guess we'll have to involve lawyers. I didn't flinch. I stared straight at her. Go ahead, I said calmly. She blinked. What? Take me to court. Try explaining to a judge why you're suing your daughter for expenses from 20 years ago. See how that goes. For the first time in a long time, they both looked unsure. Dad cleared his throat. We just thought you'd want to make things right. I shook my head slowly. I am, right now. And with that, I ripped the letter clean in half, watching their faces tighten in disbelief. I'm done being your personal aide. Mom gasped. You ungrateful little... I turned on my heel, cutting her off. Merry Christmas, I said over my shoulder, walking back to my car. As I closed the door and started the engine, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Lightness, relief, freedom. They weren't upset about the money, not really. They were upset about losing control. For the first time ever, I had all the power, and I wasn't giving it back. That night, we had the best Christmas our little family had ever known. Mia and Caleb tore into presents, laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. We drank hot cocoa, played board games, and cuddled under blankets watching Christmas movies. No guilt, no tension, no walking on eggshells. Just us. Real family. The kind that doesn't come with strings attached. The kind that doesn't make you prove your worth before offering love. The kind that's loud and messy and joyful and still enough. I thought maybe, just maybe, my parents would finally get the message. But people like them, they don't learn. They double down. And they were about to try something I never saw coming. Because even after everything, the calls, the credit card, the letter, they still believed they had one last way to force themselves back into my life. And this time they were coming for my kids. New Year's Eve should have been a clean slate. I had spent the day decorating the living room with streamers and balloons. Mia and Caleb were buzzing with excitement, running around in their party hats, counting down the hours until midnight. Mark was pouring us glasses of champagne, smiling as he watched the kids. For the first time in forever, it felt like we were celebrating something real. Then there was a knock at the door. Mark and I exchanged a look. No way, he muttered. I walked to the door, already knowing. Sure enough, there they were, my parents, and Ryan and his wife Olivia. An ambush. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. What do you want? Mom stepped forward with that sugary tone she always used when she wanted something. We just want to talk. No thanks, I said. Dad sighed. Lauren, enough. You've made your point. Now let's fix this before things go too far. I narrowed my eyes. Too far. What does that even mean? Ryan folded his arms. They've spoken to a lawyer. The air felt suddenly heavy. A lawyer? I repeated. Mom nodded, her eyes filled with fake concern. We're just worried. You've cut your children off from their real family over a misunderstanding. That's not fair to them. A chill ran down my spine. Dad cleared his throat. We've been looking into grandparents' rights. At first I thought I misheard. Then I let out a short, sharp laugh. You think you can sue your way into my kids' lives? We've done nothing wrong, Mom insisted. Nothing? I snapped. You stole from me. You treated my children like they were second class. And now, because I finally said no, you think you can bully your way back in. Dad stepped forward, his voice low. You don't want to do this. But I smiled, calm, unshaken. Oh, but I do. I held up my phone. I have every text, every voicemail, every demand, and if you push this, I will bury you in the truth. That was the moment they realized it. They had lost. For good. Mom's face twisted. You're being unreasonable. I didn't flinch. No, Mom. I'm finally being smart. I took a step back inside, hand on the door. Happy New Year, I said quietly. Then I shut it in their faces. They never went through with their pathetic legal threat. They knew they had nothing, and more than that, they knew they had lost control. In the weeks that followed, there was nothing. No calls, no texts, not even a forwarded meme from Ryan. And the silence? It was beautiful. There was no guilt, no walking on eggshells, no quiet expectations disguised as family duties, just peace. One sunny afternoon in early spring, I sat on the porch with a glass of lemonade, watching Mia and Caleb chase bubbles in the yard. Mark sat beside me, our knees touching lightly. It's been quiet, he said. I nodded. Yeah, feels good. He looked out at the kids and smiled. Think they'll ever try again? I sipped my drink, heart full. Doesn't matter, I said, because I already won. I wasn't talking about revenge. I wasn't talking about pride. I was talking about peace. About the ability to sit in my own home, surrounded by love, knowing I had finally drawn the line, and kept it. I had my kids, my husband, my family, the real kind. The kind that doesn't ask you to shrink yourself. The kind that doesn't demand loyalty in exchange for love. The kind that dances in pajamas, makes pancakes for dinner, and loves each other just because. If you've ever been made to feel like you or your children weren't good enough, hear this. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they share your blood. You deserve love without conditions. And if you've had to walk away from people you once called family, you're not alone. And you're not wrong. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is close the door and never look back. Thank you for being here, and if this story spoke to you, leave a comment below. Tell us what family means to you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Art of Revenge, where we turn pain into power and endings into new beginnings.